Hello and welcome back. Right, last video we did on Clep Diaz and it got some really good feedback focusing on this module. So I'm going to do another focused session today, and this time it's going to be on the Steppy. Now, the Steppy is a sequencer. It's a nice compact sequencer, 1U format, and I absolutely love it. And today I want to go through just why I love it, how I use it. It's not going to be a walkthrough of the exact manual and how all the different features, but I'm going to go over the features that I use the most and try and give you as much information about it as I can. So if it's something that you're interested in, then this is the video for you. Okay, so before we zoom in on the Steppy, I'm just going to go through roughly what I got set up here. So we've got PAMs giving clock and reset, and I've got my clock going out to a mult here, my reset going out here. And as you can see, I've got a clock here going into Steppy, and we have a reset coming from Steppy, so I can just press start and stop and it'll always reset everything here. It's also doing reset duties and clock for the Clep, and also the clock of the Ghost here for my effects unit. So this just gives us a nice easy way of just starting. So there you can see it start, and if we stop, as soon as we press start again, it will reset back to the beginning and everything will be back in sync. So that's basically the setup. So if you're interested in the way this is set up, it's pretty similar to the last video I did where I did the focus video on Clep here, and it's set up in a similar way. So if you want to go and have a look at that, then here's the video link up in the top corner. But today we're going to just focus on the Steppy here. So let's zoom in on the Steppy and we'll get started. Okay, so here we've got Steppy. It's in run mode at the minute, but we've got nothing going through it. So to start off, before we actually go into how to use this thing and how I like to use it for performance purposes, I'm just going to get some kind of sequence going just so that we can actually hear something as we're going through it. So let's just get a little sequence going. So this is just playing the ataraxic through the javelin here, and it'll be opening the VCA. So let's just get a few steps going in. Okay, so there's a nice 16-step sequence that we've got. The ataraxic is and the javelin, they're on minimum envelope, so all you're hearing is a click here. As soon as I turn on the Clep, we'll get some effects. Right, so this is our basic 16-step sequence, and this is pretty much how I use it most of the time. Now, if you want to change the steps, you can just press them until you get something you like, but I'm quite happy with this. Okay, so Steppy is quite powerful in that this basic 16-step sequence that we got here, you can make it longer, you can mute, you can unmute. So let's go into a few of the different menu functions that we've got here. So if we press the select button, everything turns yellow. Now with yellow, all of the menu options here above the buttons are active. And then if we were to press the edit button where we're in red, all of the ones below are active. So you can see that the red only has these menu options down here. So let's go back into select mode. So now we can select different tracks. So we've got 4 different tracks here. So A is going for the ataraxic. B, I've got wired up to just a simple kick, which is just off screen here for going into the squid sample. So let's switch to track B and then go back, press select. So we're back onto our track here of 16 steps. So we don't have anything. So let's add a kick, 4 on the floor. So that's our track B. We're not using C and D. Let's keep it nice and simple. So let's switch back to A. So now we've got 2 different sequences playing here, and you can see by the LEDs here, the 4 on the floor here is on output B, and our main sequence here is on output A. So what else can we do on A? So we can select each of our 4, so we're just using A and B. Then over here we've got pages. So I selected a basic 16-step sequence, but you can double it to 32, 48 or 64. So in order to do that, you can actually select the second page, third page, fourth page. So let's select the second page, and you see that we've got no notes here. Go back to the first page. Here's our sequence. Now, in order to make this sequence longer, at the moment we've got it just at 16 notes. So let's go to 32, but you don't see anything coming here. That's because we've hard-coded it to just 16. So if you want to just increase the length, you just hold down and now it's coming here. Now we haven't got any notes in here yet, but it's playing the first 16 notes and then the second 16 notes. Back to page 1. So let's put something in here just so that we can see it playing. Now you might think, oh, well, we're on page 2 here, but I can't see page 1. So if I switch back to page 1, then I can see that, but I can't see page 2. How do we get around that? There's a special mode here. You see the arrow with the 3 dots? Press select, press the 3 dots. That'll move between the pages now. So there's page 2, page 1, page 2, page 2, back to page 1. So you can either stay on the same page or you can go through. So let's just go back. Let's keep it nice and simple. We'll just go back to 16 notes. But that gives you a nice page button there. This one, this nice loopy thing that looks like an infinity symbol. I'll come back to this later. This is my favorite feature, not to be missed. It's the most playable part of Steppy and why I love it. I've used it a lot in previous videos where I've briefly talked about it, but I'll go into it in much more details here. And this is the feature that makes this whole module worthwhile in my opinion. So we're back on normal page. Let's go back to page 1. Oh, let's clear page 2 first. Back to page 1. Hold down the 16th note and we're back to a 16-step pattern. Okay, so what else have we got here? So we've talked about the different tracks. We've talked about how many pages that you can have per track. Next down here we have these X's, which are pretty self-explanatory. They're mutes. Mute the kick on channel 2. Or mute the main track. So that's quite simple. You've got mutes here. The other things here we've got is the ability to reset the sequence or to clear the whole sequence, including any parameters you've set. So that's pretty straightforward. Now the reset's really useful because it takes every step. So if you've started putting some patterns that are different lengths to others, it will make sure everything resets back to the first step. Now I very rarely use that because let's face it, we're wiring up a reset here. So every time we stop and we start, it resets. So I very rarely use these things. So that's covered our select menu, nice and simple. We've got track select, length select, mute, pattern, continue, loopy we'll come back to, and a couple of resets. Okay, so what else can we do? So well, before we carry on, let's just add some delay and reverb on here just to make this a little bit more interesting. It's only so long I can listen to that same pattern. Right, so let's move down onto the edit menu. What have we got down here? So I pre-selected this shift, which looks very pretty, but it's quite complicated, so I'll come back to that one. So gate, we've gate length. Now if you increase the gate length, that's exactly what it says on the tin. You can set different gate lengths here. Clock, this gives you a clock division. So we can divide the clock by 2. So this is for our main beat here. Divide by 3, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. So if you want to go half time, divide by 2. Or maybe select track B, the kick, and divide that, so we half the kick. So that's our clock division. Let's switch back to track A because that's our main track that we can show things on a little bit easier. So what else have we got here? We got swing, exactly what it says. Everyone likes a bit of swing. So at the moment we've got no swing. Put a little bit of swing on. It's that kind of swing that you don't really notice, but just makes you start moving a little bit. You go extreme. Too much swing. We've got delay, which now I don't actually use the delay. I'll describe what it is, but I don't use it at all. Swing is every other note. Delay is every note. So you can put a full swing, permanent delay on for every note. Make things very loose. Not something that I use a lot, so don't really go into it. To be fair, I don't use the clock. I don't use the delay. I do use the swing a lot. Gate, very rarely used for the type of music that I'm doing. Just nice short gates is fine. But then we come on to things like the probability, which is very, very useful. So probability is exactly what it says. 100% probability, 90, 80, etc. So just putting it down to 90% probability, if we go back to our main track here, you just get the occasional missed note. And that just gives you a constantly evolving 16-note pattern. So that's kind of, unless I want something very repetitive, I kind of tend to use it on 90%, mixture of between 90 and 100%, just to get that ever-evolving movement. So that's probability. Now shift. Shift looks really cool. What on earth is that doing? Okay, so in order to explain shift, let's go back to our main pattern here. Now it kind of feels like the main pattern is starting here to me. So if you program a 16-note step and you kind of think that the main kick point is here, then you can shift everything along. So if I want to shift this 1, 2, 3 to the left, then we'll start with 2 solid notes, a gap, and then another note. So let's try that. Go to shift. So we can shift 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's shift 3 to the left and go back. You can see now we've got the 2 notes at the beginning. So everything that was here has shifted 3 notes across. So it's just a way of resetting your pattern so that it can always start exactly where, you know, if you've got a nice groove going and you always want it to start on the first note usually. So get it going and then shift the pattern around. So yeah, that's quite useful. So let's put that back where it was. So we shifted 1, 2, 3 to the left. So let's shift 3 to the right, this one. Come back, and this is back to our original pattern. So that can be quite useful. Again, not something I use very often. You kind of set things up, then you'll shift it, and then you'll leave it alone. What else have we got? Save. So you click save. Got 8 save points here. You click on a save point. These then highlight. So if I click save, that's saved in slot A, B, C, D, E, etc. And the same with load. You just click load, and I want to load A, B, C. So you've got save points. Now the save is very useful. So say for example, you've been playing a bit tonight, and you want to just leave it. You want to come back in the morning. Now the thing with Steppy is it doesn't remember what you had. So if you switch this thing off, it will go back to its previous save points. So what I always do when I've finished for the night, before I flick that switch, I just come to save, just save it in slot 1 and 2 usually, and then I can switch it off, and it will then come back to that exact same point. So that's big tip there, always save before you switch off. So that's all your edit points there. Now, everything that we've been doing there with gates, clock, swing, delay, probability, etc. have been on the entire track that we've been on. So you'll be on track A here, and we're now editing on track A. If you want to edit per step, you can do that. So in order to edit per step, instead of just pressing the edit once like this, you press and hold. It takes you into this mode, which is saying, what do you want to edit per step? Do you want to edit probability, delay, clock, or gate? So let's do a probability. Now it's telling me anything that's red here is any step that already has a per step probability on it, which is nothing. So it's telling me I'm going to edit the probability here. So let's maybe edit the probability of this last note. And it's saying, what probability do you want for that last note? Do you want that? Anything? And then you can just go back. Come out of this mode, press back on the edit button, back again, and you're back out. Not something that I generally use. I tend to like probability on everything. Sometimes I might put probability on the last step specifically, just at quite a low, maybe a 30 or 40%, so it just hits occasionally. But I kind of just like to put like a 90% probability across the whole thing. You know, it's up to you, but the feature's there, it's quite useful. I think that's something that came in one of the later firmwares. But yeah, it's quite useful. Okay, what else can we do? So, Once we've got our track set up here, got a kick and we've got a main track. Let's talk about Loopy. Now I had to look it up in the manual to know it was called Loopy. It looks like an infinity sign to me, but we'll call it the Loopy button. So let's select Loopy. Now when you've selected Loopy, you see this red lights flashing. We go back into play mode, and with the red light flashing, when you've got Loopy mode enabled here, you can't just switch on and off individual notes. If you hold down a note, it will play that note in a loop. So if I hold down this one here, it's just going to play this, which is track A, so this is our main voice. But our kick, which is 4 on the floor here and here, won't play, so it will just take the kick out. So you can see how that's really performative. Once you start doing something a little bit more interesting, you can actually hold, so if you hold down a range of notes, which I'll try and do here so that you can still see the notes playing. You can see it's now playing a 4-note loop with 1 kick, which is under my left finger, and 3 notes on the main voice. And then if I let go of my right finger, it will play just the single note under my left finger, which has both a kick and the main lead voice, so it'll be like a fill. So you can see how this can be quite performative. If I select something that's not got either a kick or a note active, then it will give us a rest. So that's quite performative as well. Let's try that. It's nice to just put a little bit of a rest in. That's something I use a hell of a lot, as well as the full fill, or sometimes, so if we turn this off, take the note off here, which is, because at the moment I've got the main voice on all of the kicks, so if we take one off the kick, go back into Loopy, now if I play this note, I'll just get a kick. So if I've got like another voice going on in the background, I can mute the main ataraxic here. So again, that's really useful. So I tend to leave at least one of the 4 on the floor kicks separate from the main voice, so I can either play both together or play the kick without. Or for example, what if you want to, let's just bring this back in. What if you want to play not a full fill kick, but you want to play every other note? So if I hold down these 2, let me just redo that. Forgot to select Loopy. So let's try that again. In fact, it's probably easier to show here. So I'm going to get a kick every other note, and I'm also going to get. So you can use that as a partial fill and then go to a full fill. But that only had one of the main voice, so here I've got 2 of the main voice, so this will play the main voice every note and the kick every other note, because the kick's here and the main voice is on both. So let's try that. So you can sometimes go from there to there. Or if you just want to play one of your 4 on the floors across a 4-note pattern here, so that the kick continues, your beat continues exactly the same, but rather than having 1, 2, 3, 4 different variations here, although if you look at 2 and 3 they are the same because we're on note 1 and 3 and 1 and 3, you can actually get yourself a slightly different sound. So because that's on 1 and 3, that's quite rhythmic. But if we go to the 4 notes above, we're on 1 and 4, so we're going to get 2 rests and 2 plays. So let's try that. And down here we've got 3 notes active. Now the only thing that I don't like, and it can't be helped really, is when you're playing this performatively like this, you kind of have to time it to finish on the last note in order for the kick to stay at the same position it was. Because if you don't, it's going to then reset back, start playing that first note back at the top left and start on a kick. So if you're sort of midway between these two fingers, see how there's a bit of a rest there? Now that can sound good, but it's just something to be aware of. You soon get used to it though. You kind of just start playing this thing and you come up with some rests like that you really, really like. Well, I certainly do anyway. So yeah, anything else that I can think of? I think that's pretty much it. So I don't really use the per step editing. It's quite kind of deep, and then you forget where you are. I like to play it more, so it's this loopy mode. The other thing, one more thing that I'll just mention here. If we turn loopy mode off, if you have a bass line, quite often you want your bass line to be more polyrhythmic compared to the rest. So I'll usually select maybe a 5 or a 7 note length, which you just hold down, and that gives you your pattern length there. So 7. That's constantly evolving around the beat. So I regularly use it in this mode here, maybe 7 or 5. But it's so playable, it's so easy to use, it's really intuitive, and that's why I love Steppy. For the size, it's not that cheap as a sequencer. I mean, for probably twice the price of a Steppy, you can get a fully blown Metroplex, and it's only a gate sequencer as well. But I just find it really, really playable, and I absolutely love it. And it's always in this small case, always. And in the bigger 7U case, it's always in there as well. Even if I've got another sequencer in there, I still like it because it's so playable. So yeah, there you go. Quick demo of Steppy. Not like any other review that you probably see. I like to just kind of not only describe what it does, but just explain how I like to use it as well. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.